The former president has repeatedly blasted any investigation into his actions that could result in accountability. But a new NBC News poll released just this morning shows the majority of Americans do not share that sentiment. 57% think investigations into Donald Trump should continue. That 57% might be disappointed to learn that the 11th Circuit Court delayed the testimony of South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham in the Fulton County, Georgia, criminal investigation into attempted election interference in the Peach State. The reason? Well, it all revolves around the speech and debate clause, which protects members of Congress from being sued for legislative speech. It is just the latest twist in this consequential investigation. And in Florida, Judge Bruce Reinhart said he is inclined to unseal the affidavit that spurred the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. The Justice Department, they have until Thursday to propose redactions. I want to bring in our legal panel to discuss the latest developments in two of the criminal investigations now involving the former president. Charles Coleman is an MSNBC legal analyst, and Ryan Goodman is the former special counsel to the general counsel of the Defense Department. Say that 5 times fast. Welcome to you both. Charles, let me start with you, because we know that the judge could decide to release a redacted version of that Mar-a-Lago affidavit. Now, former President Trump says the document search violated his Fourth Amendment protection against illegal search and seizure. And you've got Trump's lead counsel telling a conservative radio show host, Mark Levin, that they're considering filing a motion to appoint a quote unquote special master to review the documents that were seized by the FBI. What exactly would a special master do? And what is the end game here?
Well, a special master, Simone, would be someone who would look at the actual evidence and approach things from a place of impartiality and the sort of inclination that what the Trump attorneys are trying to do is basically suggest in advance that the DOJ and the FBI are not impartial parties in here. And we know that that's not true, but they're already leaving room to sort of cast doubt through disinformation, confusion, and narrative control around what it is that the FBI is going to find or may find upon its review of the 11 different boxes that were recovered from Mar-a-Lago. So in the bigger sense of things, what they are trying to do is sort of funnel disinformation out through a number of different avenues to try to control the narrative among their followers and among their base. If you look at, for example, just the notion of the affidavit and its redaction, they have very publicly sort of made this push for transparency as though this is something that they want released and something that they want out in the public. But if you notice what has happened in court, they have not been nearly as aggressive in trying to actually get those things released.
Not aggressive at all. I mean, Charles, Trump's lawyers did not file a motion to unseal the affidavit. It runs counter to what the former president has been saying. I mean, is there information in there that could be damaging to Trump, and that's why they don't want to file the motion?
More than likely, you don't get a search warrant, especially in a case like this, without probable cause. All search warrants require a showing of probable cause. And no matter how much redaction would take place before this was released, there would be some sort of information in there that would explain how the government had probable cause and how it was actually set up for them to get the warrant. And that's not information that Trump's attorneys want out there. I want to make a really quick point, Simone. The other aspect of, you talk about this disinformation campaign, DOJ had engaged with Trump for over a year to try to get these documents. This was the result of failed discussions. It was the result of a subpoena that had been blown off. And so this sort of notion of this caught us by surprise, this caught us off guard, this violated our Fourth Amendment rights, this is all furthering that disinformation campaign that's attempted to hijack the narrative.
The former president being disingenuous. What a shocker. OK, I want to move to another criminal investigation, and specifically the one into potential election interference in Fulton County, Georgia. Now, we do know that this morning, the 11th Circuit temporarily blocked Republican Senator Lindsey Graham from having to testify before the grand jury, again, citing this potential speech and debate clause concerns. Break it down for us, Ryan. What effect could this or will this have on the investigation and specifically the timeline?
So I think it is a temporary setback. I don't think this is a setback of weeks. I think it's probably a setback of days. The 11th Circuit didn't give us any reasoning behind their decision, but they basically seem to say, let's have the federal district court again look at this question about whether or not the interview essentially with Lindsey Graham can be tailored so that it excludes anything that deals with his legislative activity. We know what the federal district court will do because it's basically already made the decision under the speech and debate clause that it doesn't apply, but they can tailor it and so that it will be upheld on review. And I do think in some sense it's not a good sign for Lindsey Graham because the Court of Appeals is signaling that he will not get everything he wants, which is just to quash and the entire subpoena and doesn't have to appear at all. So I think in the end of the day, it looks like just a few days maybe of a delay, but there's no telling exactly what will happen.
We also know that Rudy Giuliani is a target of that criminal investigation in Georgia. He's the closest associate of the former president so far to be a target that we know of. What developments could we see next in this case as it relates to Rudy Giuliani, Ryan?
So I think he has extraordinary criminal exposure, and that if anything, he's probably going to need to take the fifth if asked any questions. And you could easily imagine that Fani Willis comes forward with an indictment of Giuliani, and then he faces a choice as to whether or not he will flip and try to strike a deal or otherwise. And I think, it's almost inconceivable to think that Giuliani gets indicted and Donald J. Trump is not indicted as well or referenced as a criminal co-conspirator. So I think this is enormous criminal jeopardy for him in particular, and then also for the former president.
All right. Ryan Goodman, Charles Coleman, thank you very much for your insights.